Hello, this is Daniel Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. Now, right from the start, I will say that I have not seen anything of Squadron 42 other than what CIG has already made public, and a long history of playing Chris Roberts single-player space games. Also, frankly, I don't expect to hate Squadron 42. I expect to love it. But if you do wind up hating Squadron 42, it will likely be for one of these reasons. Because not everyone will love every game, and part of the reasons that they don't love it is that they want to love every game. They want it to be the perfect game for themselves. And then, of course, it isn't. Number 1, rigid story arcs. Squadron 42 will not be a wander anywhere you want, do whatever you want game. So players just thinking that Starfield would have been the perfect game if it just had no loading screens, better writing, a decent piloting experience, and better graphics will be disappointed. In fact, at a Los Angeles Bar Citizen, just after Starfield made its very first public announcement, I had a chance to ask Chris Roberts whether he was concerned about Starfield vis-a-vis Squadron, and he replied that they were entirely different games, particularly because of the linear storyline. Wing Commander 1 pioneered the branching storyline concept. Wing Commander 1 had a fairly broad branching structure. Wing Commander 2, though, simplified it into 2 channels, a winning path and a losing path, and subsequent Wing Commander games tended to follow the 2 branches model. I suspect that Squadron will even more follow the Wing Commander 2 model. Why? Because CIG has spent a lot of effort and money into getting motion capture from a bunch of A-list talent. They only have so much of it. They aren't going to want to hide that down some deep branch that nobody's going to see. They're going to want to get as much of it in front of you as possible. Winning or losing, expect to hear the I held the line speech.
So in 40 years from now, when you're surrounded by everything and everyone you hold dear, and they ask, what did you do in the Battle of Vega? You can look them in the eye and say, I held the line. Men and women of the Second Fleet, I am proud to stand with you today. Good luck. Push your button.
Number 2, limited replayability. If you're expecting a game that you will spend hundreds of hours playing, the linear storyline is going to stay in the way of that. Most folks will do one winning playthrough, a deliberately losing playthrough, and then one speedrun. Then they'll likely go up on a shelf until it's time for nostalgia playthroughs well down the line. This will be a game that will emphasize quality of playtime over quantity of playtime. Ideally, that will be more than enough to feel you've gotten a good value for your money. But if you feel you haven't gotten your money's worth until you're down to the pennies per play hour level, you may be disappointed. Now, some will say that's still okay. We have the Star Citizen Persistent Universe for that kind of gameplay, which is true, but it also means that 3. Squadron 42 isn't just a single-player version of Star Citizen. If what you will be hoping for is the Star Citizen experience, but just for yourself without having to worry about others disrupting it, then you will be disappointed. Squadron is much more structured. If your goal is to load up Squadron and then bust away and go fly to Stanton and do all your Star Citizen stuff, you are going to be disappointed. That's not going to be possible. Number 4, you hate puzzle maps. From the demonstrations at CitizenCon, there appears to be quite a number of visibility and physics puzzles. Pull the ship out of sight just at the right time, move the crate so the boat will lower, turn the valve, maneuver just right to avoid the death beams, etc. These are standard video game tropes, but for players who just like the run-and-gun mentality, they can be annoying. This will bring up number 5, you don't like both dogfighting and first-person shooting. Both are good, right? Yes, both are good, but just because they are good doesn't mean that both are among your favorite kind of gameplay. In Star Citizen, you can choose to focus on bunkers and other ground combat, or you can focus on combat assistance and bounties, etc. But in Squadron, you won't have that kind of flexibility. Maybe there'll be mission tree branches where you can take the ground missions or the air missions, like you can at the Jump Town event, but I am more suspecting that nearly every mission step will require both, and certainly the whole playthrough will require both. Number 6, you are impatient with exposition. Again, CIG has gone to the trouble of filming a lot of motion capture and a lot of character development and background exposition. The Wing Commander series, right from that opening baton tap, made it clear that the intent was to have you in the middle of an interactive movie. And honestly, Squadron is likely to be the most notable for kicking that up a notch, giving you full presence inside the 3D space of the game, being able to choose and move your point of view, which was not possible with the green screen technology of the later Wing Commander opuses. But if you're the sort of player who just wants to skip everything and get to the action, you will either miss much of the intended content of the game, or, if they force you to watch it through once because truly key information is embedded, be frustrated. Number 7, it doesn't make you feel 16 again, or whatever is the age you played your first Wing Commander game, which is likely 16, and the variable being which Wing Commander game it was. Someone wiser than I once commented that we are all just chasing that thrill that we had upon first discovering computer games, and possibly coming close to succeeding, but never actually, which is what keeps us going. Sometimes becoming quite jaded and salty when a game doesn't succeed. And finally, number 8, you expect it to look like $1 billion went into it. I'm sure that a lot of people who have for the last decade been shouting it is a scam will be adopting this as their new chorus. They had $1 billion and this was all they could do? And yes, the fundraising will undoubtedly be well beyond $1 billion when Squadron is released, even at the most optimistic of timetables and pessimistic of funding curves. And no, it will not look like $1 billion went into it, because $1 billion didn't. It went into the persistent universe, as well as a lot of it went into core R&D, some of which, like server meshing, will have no relevance to Squadron 42 at all. And it built a company with facilities around the world. You will not see it on the screen, but that does not make it any less necessary. But honestly, is this even a relevant discussion at all? After all, you didn't pay $1 billion. You paid a few dollars for Squadron 42 add-on, or will pay about what the price of a AAA game cost. Do you actually care that the budget of a movie you enjoyed was? Do you care if Rockstar Games is financially well managed in creating GTA 6? Sure, there were mistakes made by CIG, blind R&D avenues followed, but do you actually go and audit the quantity of retakes that had to happen on a movie, or how much was spent on footage that wound up, at best, on the bloopers reel? Normally, no. But for those who have been in the mindset, potentially having built reputations around a foundational belief that everything about this project must be a scam, that's how they're going to still be insisting that it still is. Because the hardest thing for anybody to do is to recognize that they were wrong, particularly if they have been insisting that they were right for more than a decade. Now, for an update on our giveaways, we continue to make progress towards our goal of giving away the Zippy Zazzy Saftig Zephyr, the Zeus 2 cargo, as well as our longer-term goal of the magnificent multi-role mining meta, the Arasta. 1 entry per video, be a member for automatic entry, or subscribe and comment, somewhere including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is the age Squadron 42 won't make you feel. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Daniel Raymond for Ray's Guide.